Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's new grilled buffalo chicken papadilla. It's just $6. I'm Todd Grisham. A monster matchup on CBS between two of the top three teams in the country. The Georgia Bulldogs traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide for some prime-time SEC football on CBS. Here we go. Certainly a tale of two halves. Nick Saban cleared to coach after receiving 3 negative COVID tests following a positive test on Wednesday of this week. Nick Saban 21-0 against former assistants. Kirby Smart 0-2 against Saban, including that national championship loss. Alabama has won the last 5 meetings. Early first, no score. Mac Jones to John Mechie. 40-yard score. He's so good with the deep ball is Mac Jones. First play, second quarter. We're tied at 7. Stetson Bennett, who had a hot and cold game. This is hot. To James Cook. The running back wins that battle. 82-yard score. Georgia up 14-7. Cook, the younger brother of Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook, making brother proud. Late second quarter, Bama down by a touchdown. Jones perfectly placed to Devonta Smith, and we're tied at 17. 26 career touchdowns at Alabama for Smith, second most in school history behind Amari Cooper. Under a minute left. Georgia at the Alabama 11. 4th and inches, and they get the Tide to jump offside. You know Nick Saban is furious about that, and it would lead to this. Bennett to Jermaine Burton, 5-yard touchdown. Georgia would give up a field goal with 1 second left in the half, which would make it 24-20 at the break. Beginning of the third quarter. Actually, 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. No one has scored in the second half. That changed here. Jalen Waddle, 90-yard score. Roll Tide up by 3. Waddle's 4th straight 100-yard game. Mac Jones, 5 touchdown passes of 40 yards or more this season. Stetson Bennett trying to answer. Bulldogs down 3. Red zone interception. Malachi Moore, who takes it all the way back to close to midfield. Bennett's second interception of the game. Stetson Bennett had 3 interceptions on the night. First and goal, touchdown, Najee Harris. He finished with 152 yards on 31 carries. And then off the Alabama, this is Georgia trying to get something going. Bennett picked again. 3rd interception of the game. And then off that turnover, Bama inside the Georgia 15. And it's Jones again. He had 4 touchdown passes. That a nice one to Smith. His 5th career multi-touchdown game as Alabama blanks Georgia in the second half, outscoring them 21-0. The final score, 41-24. Alabama has won 34 of their last 35 home games and have won 20 of their last 21 SEC games. After the game, here's Nick Saban with our Jamie Erdahl.
When there was a chance that you weren't going to be able to coach this game, you told us that your communication was the most important thing, but not as much your presence. But the fact that you were out here tonight, how did that feel for you?
Well, it felt great. It was a great win for our team. It's a great win for our fans. You know, Georgia's got a great team, and this was the kind of game I guess you come to Alabama to play. And our players did a great job. They handled the disruption of the week very, very well, showed a lot of maturity, played a lot better in the second half. So kind of got control of the game. So I'm really proud of our players for the way they competed. We knew it was going to be a street fight. We knew we were going to have to go 15 rounds, and I'm really proud of the way they did that.
I was going to say, the last time we talked, 24 points for Georgia at the half, 24 to finish that game. What does that say about how your defense responded?
Well, they responded well. We got a couple turnovers, which was really good, and they missed a field goal, so we got some stops. And I think that's what our defense has to focus on, is just getting stops, not worrying about statistics and all that kind of stuff. Just get stops.
Congratulations, Coach. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
What a wild week it was for Nick Saban. Test positive for COVID. Maybe it was a false positive. He tested negative 3 times, was allowed to coach. His team gave up 24 points in the first half and was trailing. They come back to win, blanking Georgia 21-0 in the second half. Well done, Alabama. Well done, Coach Saban, as Mac Jones adds to his historic start. First quarterback in school history with 3 straight 400-yard games. To break this game down, we welcome in Barrett Salee and Brian McFadden. Barrett, what was different in the second half of this one?
Well, the Alabama defense just flat out got after Stetson Bennett. They found ways to get after him, to put pressure on him and force him into mistakes. They were not threatened by Stetson Bennett deep downfield. So they took some chances, and you saw him force one in near the goal line, gets picked off by Malachi Moore, and then I have no idea what he was looking at on that second interception of the second half, his third of the game, because if it was to the receiver 15 yards behind where that ball was picked, I don't know why he thought he was Aaron Rodgers and had that kind of arm strength. So, Alabama's defense, you heard Nick Saban say right there, 24 points. They got at the half, 0 in the second half. They got turnovers, they forced some mistakes, and they got stops. So, to me, it was all about Bama's defense, giving them a chance. And like B-Mac and I have talked about on HQ for a while now, defense doesn't win championships. Just enough defense wins championships. Alabama didn't have enough in the first half. They got more than enough in the second half.
No question. In the second half, Bama, they just removed the car seat from Stetson Bennett. In the first half, he was extremely comfortable. I said he was as comfortable as a 5-year-old in the car seat. They removed the car seat, and because of that, their offense got extra possessions, and they just flat out ball. This offense, guys, might be better than the offense we saw in Tuscaloosa last year. No, you know what? Not might be. They are. They're better. The quarterback in Mac Jones might not be the arm talent that Tua Tagovailoa was for them last year, but he understands what he does well and some of his weaknesses, and he does not force the issue. If there's not a throw there, he's not trying to make tight throws and big-time throws in tight spaces. He takes what the defense is giving him. And these wide receivers, Smith, Waddle, Michie, listen, I thought they had some stars last year when you add Ruggs and Judy. But the three they have now, they're right there with the top three from last year. And 2 of those guys were first rounders. And then the running game. This offense, wow. It's almost like watching LSU 2.0, right? And what we're seeing, this offense continues to get better week in and week out. And they have been able to win in many different ways. And when you can dominate on the ground, that has been the biggest difference, I think, also between this offense from last year. The way they dominate in the trenches offensively, it's a thing of beauty. You know what I mean? When I was in Pittsburgh, guys, and when I was playing with the Steelers, when we had Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, and Mike Wallace, BA used to ask us all the time, you want to die fast or slow? It doesn't matter, because with the speed you have out there, you can't stop them. And that's the same thing with Bama.
Najee Harris, 31 carries, 152 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, and he did get that touchdown. So as great as Mac Jones was under center, Najee Harris doing pretty darn well himself as Bama wins at home, beating Georgia by scoring 21 unanswered in the second half. And joining us now from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Jamie Erdahl. Jamie, you were there. You lived it. A big swing of momentum after halftime. From your perspective, what changed?
Honestly, I thought I was watching a basketball team out here practicing the tip drill. I know Gary Danielson mentioned it all the time on the broadcast, but that Alabama defensive line, they must have worked on it all week. When you're facing a quarterback that's under 6 feet tall and might just not have the arm strength that you're usually seeing in the SEC, well, you can get your hands on a couple of balls, and we saw that not only in the first half, but most predominantly in the second half for this Alabama defense. They shored things up. I know I wouldn't want to be a secondary player in that Alabama locker room at the half when you have such a defensive-minded secondary coach, Nick Saban, coming in to fix things up. But they listened, they made the adjustments that were necessary, and to put a scoreless board effort in on the second half of the defense, unbelievable against Georgia.
I saw your post-game interview with Nick Saban. That's about as happy as he's going to get during the regular season. He was also pretty calm at halftime as well. Is this maybe a softer Nick Saban we've seen, or we're going to see after what he's been through this week with the positive COVID tests?
I don't know if softer is the right word, but he definitely hit the nail on the head, I think, in our pregame interview when he used the word grateful. I mean, there was a very real moment here this week on Wednesday that he thought that he was not going to be able to coach for the first time in his, what I believe is a 47-year coaching career. To take that away from a guy who's had as much success as Nick Saban has had in his time with the headset on would be remarkably profound. And he truly felt that on Wednesday. He did tell me that as the week went on and he continued to get negative tests and he continued to feel great, that he knew that there continued to be a chance. But I really think he was distressed for at least a 24-hour window there that he wasn't going to be here, and that really wrung him. So I don't think he's softer, but I do think he was just happy to be here and so thrilled with that second half effort.
On the other sideline, obviously things did not go as planned, especially in the second half for Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. Again, none of Saban's former assistants have been able to beat him. How bad did Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs want to win this one in Tuscaloosa?
Oh, man, it was there. You know, it was right there. The writing was on the wall. Georgia, they do have this thing figured out on defense, but that's just one side of the ball. Offensively, they need to fix things with Stetson Bennett. They need to either play to his skill set or find a different way to put points on the board and move the ball up and down the field. Kirby was harping to me about Stetson Bennett's decision-making. It only got worse as the game went on in the second half. But I do believe that this team, they're going to face each other again this season. And as we all know, it's tough to beat any team twice in a row. So maybe Georgia should just give this one up and say, we'll get them next time.
And finally, how about Mac Jones? 24-32, 417, 4 touchdowns, and that 1 interception. All preseason, the first couple weeks, everyone's been talking about Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. But how much talk should we be giving Mac Jones right now, especially after this performance?
I think you guys are just talking about the weapons that he has within this offense, and he just spoke with me after this game, and he gave those guys all the credit in the world. You can move on from Jerry Jeudy, you can move on from Henry Ruggs, and you can be just fine in this offense if you have Najee Harris, if you have Mechie, if you have Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. I mean, are you kidding me with the talent within this offensive roster for Mac Jones? You really could have anybody back there, but he is taking advantage of the opportunity he is being given here. He is really growing into his own as a quarterback and the skill set that he has. And I think he's looking more comfortable as these games come to him. This was a huge moment for him on this field tonight, and he took it by the horns and he ran with it. And he's really kind of becoming the Mac Jones that I think he always knew was there. The rest of the world just thought he wasn't there.
SEC on primetime, 41-24, Alabama wins at home over the Georgia Bulldogs. Jamie Erdahl was there. Thanks for giving us the time.
Thanks, guys.
Winning wagers tonight. Where was your money? If it was on Bama -6, of course you covered that one. The over hit, over 57, and the Georgia halftime of +3.5. No, that should be Alabama won that, correct? Alabama? Georgia? Oh, first half. I was thinking second half. Yes, Georgia first half +3.5. That's a winner. If you took the halftime Alabama line, which was -4, you won that as well. Back now with Barrett Sallee and Brian McFadden. You heard me talking about Mac Jones, 24-32, 417, 4 touchdowns. Is he going to give Trevor Lawrence maybe a run for his money in the Heisman this year if he keeps this up?
I think so. I think Mac Jones, I was wrong about Mac Jones because I honestly, before the season, I thought he would be a game manager. My God, what a difference maker this guy has become. Now, Trevor Lawrence against Georgia Tech today, that was probably a little bit more impressive, but Mac has become such a weapon, and yeah, he's got these great receivers. I think and Gary even mentioned it, that these two guys, Smith and Waddle, are better than some NFL teams have, and he's probably right about that. But I don't care who's out there. When Mac Jones is dropping dimes 30 yards downfield in a bucket, I'm not sure what anybody can do about that. So, yeah, Mac Jones is going to give Trevor Lawrence a run for his money in the Heisman. Now, to me, I still think it's Trevor's to lose. If he does lose it, it might be Trevor fatigue more than anything else. But right now, if I had to place a bet on who will be in New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist, it'll be Trevor Lawrence, and the next name on that list, without question, is Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Barrett. Right now, it's a two-player race when you look at the Heisman. Still a lot of football left to be played this season, and clearly you have some other conferences that will take off in the next coming weeks. But right now, Mac Jones is extremely hot. He's hibachi hot right now, hibachi hot. I mean, he's dropping dimes left and right. He has the prettiest deep ball in college football. I mean, any given time when you're watching Mac Jones play, he can just drop a 60 or 70-yarder with ease, and he drops it right in the breadbasket of his pass catcher. You look at the ranked opponents that he's played against so far. I think he dropped 50+ against A&M. We saw what he did against the best defense in all of college football in UGA, over 400 yards and 40+ points. Mac Jones is on fire right now, and he's playing with a quiet confidence. The confidence that is so impactful. He doesn't say a lot, but you feel the confidence in which he plays with. He's right there with Trevor Lawrence. I think this will be a nice race to watch throughout the course of the season, because as they continue to ball out as individuals and their teams continue to win, these two players definitely will end up in New York.
Well, let's talk about where Alabama's going to end up. Georgia seemed to have the best chance to beat them during the regular season this year. We've learned that LSU and Auburn aren't what we thought they possibly were. Which team is going to give Alabama the most problems down the stretch? Could it be Kentucky or Arkansas? God forbid.
To me, it's the team they already played. It's the team they played earlier this season. It's the Texas A&M Aggies, and they've already got that past that hurdle. They've gotten past the Georgia hurdle. You look at the rest of their schedule. Where is it? Who's it going to be? It ain't going to be Auburn. Nobody else in the East is really going to be competitive at all. There's nobody. LSU. No, not after what we've seen from LSU. So their two biggest hurdles have been cleared, and they'll probably see Georgia again in Atlanta. And when they do, Georgia better hope that it's JT Daniels under center, because Stetson Bennett is not a difference maker.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the schedule, Tennessee coming up, Mississippi State, LSU, Kentucky, Auburn, and Arkansas. Now, I don't even consider any of those teams a speed bump in a residential area. So they're going to go through that schedule with ease as long as they do what they've been able to do thus far. And then the best game, the toughest competitor will come in the SEC championship game. And if that is UGA, that's the toughest game left to be played. Granted, anything can happen any given Saturday. We know that. But when you look at what they have, we just talked about Mac Jones and this offense, how scary this offense is, and the running backs and the offensive line play. Yeah, like I said, they don't even have a residential speed bump on their schedule from here on out.
Well, let's talk about Georgia for just a second. The first half, they were leading by 4 at the break. Stetson Bennett was doing his part. He completely fell apart in the second half. If he can find his confidence, get back to maybe where he was or where he could be, could this Georgia team beat Alabama in an SEC championship game? No chance. Zero chance. Because when you look at where they are right now, this was their Super Bowl, and the confidence that they had is completely gone, not just in what they can do against Alabama, but the guy they have taking the snaps. They are right now, I think, for the rest of the season, will be searching for what that spark is, because as great as that defense is, and we've seen it, we know they're great. And Georgia's defense is one of, if not the best defenses in the entire country, and it got lit up by Alabama. And so I think, again, it goes to what we talked about at halftime. Defense doesn't win championships. Just enough defense wins championships. And if you got a dynamic offense like Alabama's, all you got to be is adequate. But if you're like Georgia and you get into a situation where you have to win a shootout, you better be able to ball out offensively, and they just can't do it. So, Georgia's not a threat. If there's a rematch in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I fully expect it to be a 10, 20, even 30-point game. I don't see where Georgia can go from here offensively.
Yeah, see, the issue for Georgia is the same issue for any other team that plays against Alabama. They don't have the same amount of pro players that Alabama has. And Georgia has a quality roster, a lot of guys that will play on Sunday, but right now Alabama has more. I mean, Alabama has 3 wide receivers, and one of them is extremely young, and if he continues to stay the course, he's going to play on Sunday. Could be a first rounder. Alex Leatherwood could be one of the best linemen in college football. He will be a first rounder. You look at the backfield, Najee Harris will be a first rounder. And don't sleep on Robinson. Robinson could be the Josh Jacobs of the backfield, guy that didn't really become the feature guy, but excels on the next level. I mean, they have so many pro players that it's almost impossible for an opposing team to be able to go blow for blow with them. And that has been the issue so far in 2020, and that will be the issue throughout the season. If Alabama plays clean football and we don't see the self-inflicted wounds and things like that, it's going to be tough to beat them.
All right, so, well, we've got a good measuring stick now for what Alabama can do against a really good team. We saw what Clemson did to poor Georgia Tech, my word. I'm going to repeat the score. What would you guys handicap that national championship game right now if it is indeed Bama versus Clemson? I'll start with you, B-Mac.
Oh, boy. I know we're looking ahead, but that's what we do here is let's look ahead.
I don't want to talk about Georgia anymore.
That team right there. No, I don't want to talk about Georgia right now because, Stetson Bennett wasn't able to deliver the mail tonight, and I'm not surprised it's nighttime. But that team right there in Clemson, South Carolina, that might be the one team that could go blow for blow. You know why? You remember what I just talked about, pro players, right? They have, at the most important position, the best pro in college football in Trevor Lawrence. And with that being said, they have a shot. Not to mention a running back who's right there toe for toe with Najee Harris, and he might be the most explosive back in college football, along with a handful of young wide receivers that continue to establish confidence week in and week out. But the reason why I like this matchup, and I think Alabama probably would be the favorite, guys, if we were talking about seeing these two ball clubs kick off in a week or so, Alabama probably would be the favorite. But the reason why I really like Clemson's opportunity against Alabama, because they got secondary. They got some corners. They have a 4-deep roster of corners at any given time that play in the rotation, and they play ball. They play good. They play some big-time football, and this will be a big test for both sides. I think Alabama's wide receivers against Clemson's secondary guys, specifically the corners, to see who will win that battle. But yeah, I think Alabama will be the favorite if we were talking a matchup between those two teams in next week or so.
Can I split the difference and just say pick 'em? Like, can I sit on the fence? Because I honestly, if you ask me that question 5 minutes from now, I might have a different answer. But right now, look, I picked Clemson to win the national championship before the season. I would say Alabama has that edge. And B-Mac's right, that secondary is awesome for Clemson. But I just think from an offensive standpoint, Alabama has a little bit more explosiveness. I think Justin Ross's injury for Clemson before the season really, I wouldn't say limits them offensively, but they don't have that deep threat. Amari Rodgers can do that, but maybe not against good teams, not against great teams. So I think when you look at where they are, Trevor's a better quarterback than Mac, but not by much. Travis Etienne's a little bit better than Najee Harris, but not by much. But at wide receiver, Alabama is significantly better. So if that's the case, I think maybe it's more likely that Alabama works off play action better than Clemson. And then defensively, B-Mac's right, Clemson's got a little bit of an edge, but man, no points given up by Alabama in the second half. They seem to get right. So I would reluctantly say Alabama, but again, ask me in 5 minutes and I'll probably give you a reason why Clemson is.
Well, if you talk to college football critics, they will tell you, hey, every year just seems to be Alabama and Clemson. What's the point of the regular season? Well, here we are again.
Might be Alabama. Ohio State.
Hey, you never know.
Ohio State.
I like that positive attitude. That's Barrett Sallee and Brian McFadden. Gentlemen, thank you for weighing in on Alabama and Georgia. Make sure you check out Patrick Peterson and B-Mac for all things covered. They'll break down the gambling lines, previews, predictions, interviews, the best podcast in football on CBS. All things covered. Download and subscribe today. More coverage coming after the break.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.